Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 180 of a year of change. Today, we're going to talk about something that we've talked about before briefly, but we have some science to back it up. So, we've talked about, at some point in the past, anyway, I know we have, I think we have, anyway, about portion control. Portion control for me is the main reason why I am fat. And it's not really because I eat a lot of unhealthy foods, although this week has been horrible. I've been feeling really shitty all week, and I haven't really been eating properly. I'm still under my calories, I'm still doing my treadmill, but I'm eating really, really poorly. So I got to it's Thursday now, so I've got to sort of buckle down and get to it, because I have a really bad feeling that I've undone quite a bit of work. Anyway, the portion control has always been my focus, for me anyway, because I've always eaten plenty of fruits and vegetables and things like that, and rice and chicken and healthy things like that. But it sounds like dog food. But I was never one to just constantly eat junk food. Obviously ate quite a bit of junk food because you don't get this way just by eating healthy and just having too much. But eating too much was always the main thing. And although it's not a reason for it, obviously, it is a contributing factor. And we've heard about that before, that people say, well, the portion sizes are getting larger, and they're somewhere between, anywhere, depending on where you go. Portion sizes now, from 20 or 30 years ago, are 2 to 5 times larger than they used to be. But more recently, what was this, yesterday? No, earlier, 2 or 3 days ago. There was a study published by the University of Cambridge, and what they did was, sort of a study. Basically what they did, they compiled a whole slew of different studies and reanalyzed all the information on it. Originally, it was to do with portion sizes for food and tobacco, and I think there was alcohol in there as well. And basically just sort of sifted through all the information and took a look at what portion control did, or what portion size did, sorry. Even like the shape of food, the shape of containers that people ate out of, the size of cutlery and the size of plates and things like that, just to see if there was any correlation between that and obesity. And they found that there's a very definite correlation between the two. Basically what they found is that the larger the portion that's presented, the more people will eat. I know this sounds sort of simple, you're going, well, obviously, but it's not just a matter of, if you have a smaller plate, you'll eat less. We've always heard that. But even the shape of a container that you drink out of, if it's a shorter, wider container, they'll drink more of that than they will of a tall, thin container. But the thing that sort of struck me the most was that the more food that you present to someone, the more that they'll eat. And it's not just with people that are obese. They went across the board. They went with men, women, children, fat people, thin people, old people, young people. It was pretty much across the board that if the more food that you give someone, or the more food that you present them with, the more that they'll eat. And there are a number of different reasons why this is. They think that it might be part of it. Might be because they think it might be part of it. It might be Department of Redundancy Department. They think that part of it might be that there's that aversion to us just leaving food on our plate. So that if you give two people that are the exact same size, they even took into account, level of hunger and body mass index, just absolutely everything. When you take everything away, with everything being equal, if you give someone, say, 1 pound of food and you give another person 3 pounds of food, they'll try to eat all of it. It doesn't matter how hungry they are, what their fat content of the food is, what their fat content is, I should say, as well. If they're obese, if they're thin, it doesn't matter what it is. There's a strong aversion to just leaving food on your plate. So they've had a number of different things that they've suggested that people could do just to sort of curb that. And they said even something as simple, one of the contributing factors actually is the fact that food is so cheap. and specifically the unhealthy fast food sort of things. I know it sort of comes under fire quite a bit, but when you're looking at it and saying, well, a cheeseburger and fries, you can get that for, say, $5. But you can get a double bacon cheeseburger and a supersized fries for $6. So, and sometimes actually the way it goes is that the larger you buy, the cheaper it is. So, even not just relatively speaking, but even just actually just if you say, well, you can get the kids meal for $5, but the adults meal is $4.50. Which does happen. People will tend to go for that because there seems to be more value for it. And so, of course, they're eating more because the portion is larger. Because, again, they don't want to leave any food behind. And they said, if there was a sort of a systemic reduction of portion sizes across the board, whether it's in restaurants or in packaging when you go to the grocery store, if you're buying, a giant 16-inch pizza, even if it's a frozen one, as opposed to the little mini pizzas, you're going to eat the same amount. You're going to eat the entire package, basically, is what they're saying. And they said if they could reduce that, then just with portion sizes alone, they could reduce the caloric intake of the majority of people in the U.S. by almost 30%. Ended up being like 29% or something. It was 570 calories every single day that people would eat less of if they just reduced the portions that they were presented with. They did this across the UK and the US, just to sort of include everyone. I think there were 69 different studies. There was something like 6,000 or 6,500 different people involved. And what I'll do is actually in the description below, I'll put a brief summary because this was done by was sort of spearheaded by the University of Cambridge, but it was everything was compiled and put into a single study. So I'll put the link down below for the University of Cambridge, just their information. But I'll also actually put down the information for the study itself because you can actually go up and read it and see all the numbers that I'm getting wrong. The portion sizes, the number of people involved, all the different things that they've sort of taken into account. And I know that we talk about this before that, there's always that one thing that people are looking for. Well, that's the reason why I'm fat. This doesn't really do that. It doesn't say, well, this is why people are obese. It makes a definitive connection between portion sizes and obesity. It says, this is a contributing factor to it. But they accounted for pretty much everything else. Age, height, weight, level of hunger even. So they've already done all the number crunching. They've done all the sciencey bits. That's my really official term for doing a study. Ignore that. That is the sound of a cat tearing apart my apartment. And I've completely lost my train of thought. They've taken everything else into account. So they've done all the sciencey bits. That's where I was. I was at bits. There we go. Sciencey bits, not bits. Anyway, so it's one of those things that we've heard before. Like they talk about the size of cutlery as well, and the size of plates. That smaller plate, then it appears that you have more food. So people tend to eat less because again they still want to clear that off. But because it seems like a larger portion, then it does sort of curb that. But the shape of the bottle that they're drinking out of, little things like that, those are the ones that really sort of stand out. Because it's, they'll just drink more, regardless of how thirsty they are. They actually drank more out of a larger, wider bottle, as opposed to the tall, skinny ones. So there are a number of different things, like even the shape of foods and, containers and the plates that you're eating off of. There are a number of different things that will contribute to how much you eat in a single sitting. So it was, at the very least, it's very interesting to go up and take a look at it and read all the different things that sort of contribute to that. But again, it's not one of those things that they're saying this is why people are fat, and if we do this, this will stop obesity. It isn't. It is a contributing factor, though, and it's one that is really, really interesting when you think about it. That all things being equal, if we simply order less food, we're still going to be full. And this isn't a matter of people saying, well, I ate less, but I'm still hungry. Their level of satisfaction was the same at the end of it. They said, no, I'm fine, I'm full, or I'm just not hungry, or however much they ate. It's more of a perception thing that, if they're leaving food on their plate, they still feel like they're hungry. They still feel like they should eat it. And obviously, in many cases, including ourselves, that we overeat. And it's like, good enough, I've eaten all the food because that was the portion that I was given. So basically, if you're looking at this and thinking, well, I've got to really sort of curb things portion-wise, I'm still having a hard time with that. I'm still really bad at judging the portion sizes of foods. I'll look at a bowl of something and think, okay, well, that's about right, I think. And there have been a couple of times when I'm thinking it's a little too much. I think that not necessarily doing this week or happening this week, but this week has been bad just because it's just, I haven't gone over my calories. I haven't been, binge eating or anything like that. It's just that I skipped breakfast a couple of times because I really wasn't feeling well. I haven't been eating fruits and vegetables the same way that I should. So stuff like that. I don't know why this is related to it. But I haven't really been doing very well. But in general, what I mean is that the portion sizes that I'm looking at, normally if I was to measure it out, it's accurate. It's just there are some instances where I'm looking at it going, well, that's about 2 cups worth. And for some reason, I'm getting full before it's done, and it doesn't make sense. So I'm assuming that it's not 2 cups worth, that I'm actually, underestimating how much it is. So I'm going to start really measuring stuff out just to be safe. Just to make sure that I know what I'm doing is correct. And especially with this week, I don't know if it's a matter of me not feeling well, and that's the reason why, my eating is off, or if because my eating is off and that's why I'm not feeling well. I'm leaning more towards the fact that because I haven't been having fruits and vegetables and things like that as much as I normally do, then that's why I'm not feeling as well. But I went yesterday and bought $20 worth of apples. So that should help. Because I'm hoping, because I haven't had them in a very long time. It's been a couple of weeks. So, sounds weird saying that's a long time. So I'm going to start really getting back and having breakfast as I should be. I've been very busy. It's one of those things that I don't think we should really be skipping any meals. And I have to practice what I preach. Because otherwise, if I come and say, oh, well, make sure you're doing this, this, and this. And then you can go through my diary and go, well, you're not doing this, this, and this. You're just eating shit. And you're skipping meals and everything else. I don't think skipping meals is actually going to contribute to weight gain or anything. But it could. I don't know. Anyway, getting off topic here. I'm going to put some links in the description below so that you can go and take a look at them. One of them is just sort of the basic story saying, oh, here's what the study found. And then to the University of Cambridge, there'll be a little more science-y, and then the actual study. In case you actually want to go in, take a look at the numbers and show what they did, what they measured, what they took into account. It's very, very interesting to see that something so small and, oddly enough, not really insignificant, but something that we sort of don't think about can have such a huge impact. And I guess aside from the shape and the portion sizes and everything else, just the fact that, whether or not you're fat or thin or young or old or male or female or whatever, that the amount of food that you're given, you're going to eat pretty much all of it. And it's one of those things that, we've talked about that before. I think that we've said, yes, if we have food in front of us, we're going to eat. But oddly enough, it's not just us. It's everybody. Not just obese people, but, normal-sized people and thin people. They do the same thing. Not all of them, obviously. There are some that will have no problem leaving food on their plate. And not to say, well, then I'm going to start wasting food and not, just eating half of what I'm supposed to have on my plate. Because we've heard that before as well. People will say, well, just eat half of the food that's on there and you'll eventually lose weight. No, because that's kind of wasteful. So just take half as much food as you normally would. And if you're still hungry, you can go get more, which you've heard that as well. Anyway, I'm not going to sort of rehash things that we've heard from our childhood, because there's actual science behind behind this study. So you can go up, take a look at it. I found it very, very interesting. And it's not one of those things that is going to sort of fix everything for us, but it's just another one of those things that we can look at and say, yes, this is obviously contributing to it, and see what we can do ourselves. And they say it's not just, you don't have to go and say, well, then I'm not going to buy this or this or this. It will help, I guess, a little bit with the portion control. It might give you some ideas of how to sort of curb things on your end. And then maybe, unlike I've been doing, be a little more careful with what you're measuring out and, get ourselves back on track. So, especially on a week when, if you're having one of those weeks where you just haven't been on target as well as you should be, this might be able to help. I'm going to try it anyway and see what else I can do to try to get back on track before the end of the week. Because I'm a little more than halfway through and I feel like shit. So obviously I'm doing something wrong. I could just be sick, but I don't know. So we'll take a look at it. See if I feel better by the end of the week. But anyway, for right now, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.